What's going on everyone, you're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to learn how to find an unknown side length using trigonometry, specifically our SOHCAHTOA. For this lesson we've only got 3 skills that we need to master, and none of them are hard maths at all. The first thing we've got to be able to do is find and label the side lengths. So this is our opposite, adjacent and our hypotenuse. If you're not 100% sure how to do this, please watch my last video because I go really into detail about how to do this. This is also the #1 skill we need in order to smash this whole topic. The second thing we need to be able to do is identify which ratio to use. So we've got sine, cos and tan. This is where our SOHCAHTOA comes into effect. And again, I would really like you to write it like this. So we know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, not just either way round. The last thing to get these questions right is you might have to do a one-step equation. Usually you're just going to have to multiply one thing. If you're on top of that and your calculator is going to do it for you, you will smash this topic 100%. So for these questions, we've got 3 steps. We have to label, we have to choose the right ratio, and then we've got to write the equation. So the labeling is the most important thing we do at the start. So here we've got the angle of interest is 30, and we've got an x, an unknown side length, and hypotenuse. So I'm going to write the h next to that hypotenuse straight away, and the x is touching the angle of interest, so it must be A, the adjacent side. Now I've got A and H, I've already done 1/3 of the work I need to get full marks for this question. Because I've got adjacent and hypotenuse, using my SOHCAHTOA, I can see that I need to use cosine to get the answer correct. This is the second thing I need to do in order to get full marks. I've looked A and H, checked with my SOHCAHTOA, that's all the maths you need to do. Now what I've got to do is write cosine of the angle, so cos 30 is equal to the adjacent x over my hypotenuse. But I don't want to know what x over 10 is equal to, I want to know what x is equal by itself. So in this situation I've got x divided by 10. And we know how to get rid of divided by 10, we've been doing it since year 7. The opposite of divided by 10 is times 10. But if I'm going to do that to an equation, I've got to do it on both sides. And the exact same thing happens here. So all I've got to do, times 10 to both sides, and write down 10 times cos 30 is equal to x. Now we don't need you to work this out in your head. All you've got to do is smash that into your calculator and you will get the right answer. So the equation part of this was 1 multiplication to get full marks. The answer here was 8.66, which again makes sense because it's smaller than the hypotenuse, and we got full marks for this question. All we had to do, label the sides, pick the right ratio, and then 1 multiplication. A pretty easy way to get 3 marks. So for this one, I've got my angle of interest of 20, and I've got 2 sides, y and 17. Again, the first thing I've got to do is label them. Y is the opposite side to my angle of interest, so I'm going to label that O, and then 17 is the hypotenuse. This means I've got O and H. All I've got to do is look at my ratios and I can see that it's going to be sine. That's my labels and ratios done. Now I just need to write that the sine of the angle, so sine 20, is equal to y over 17. Again, to get rid of divided by 17, I need to times both sides by that number. So my working out is just 17 times sine 20 is equal to y. If we throw that into our calculator, we just need an answer less than 17. That's how we know we got it right. Y is equal to 5.81. Happy days, we're done. For this last question, you might have to do 2 bits of maths, which I know is crazy, but I guarantee you'll get it right. Again, we just have to label the sides. That's our first step every single time. So for this one, the 49 is our angle, and we've got the opposite of 11, and the adjacent is the unknown. So because we've got opposite and adjacent, we know that we're using tan. That's our ratio for this question. To write it out as an equation, we've got tan 49 is equal to 11 over x, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Students often think that they can just times 11 to get full marks, but this actually isn't the case. Because it's 11 divided by x, the only thing that I can touch is that divided by x. I can't just get rid of the 11. So for this, I've got to times both sides by x, which I know is a little bit strange. We haven't done that often when we're talking about unknowns. This means I've got x times tan 49 is equal to 11. But I still want to get x by itself. That's the goal. So to get rid of times tan 49, I just have to divide both sides by tan 49. So this leaves me with x is equal to 11 over tan 49. And if I throw that into my calculator, I get the answer of 9.5. And that's my full marks. So I know this is crazy. I promised that you were only going to get one-step equations, and we had to do two, which is kind of BS. But I'm about to teach us a shortcut that means we don't actually have to do any maths, and this is easier than the other questions. So there's a shortcut that we can use if the unknown is at the bottom and there's only one term on the other side. And it's really important to be on top of this because it's just going to save you a whole bunch of time. So if we look at this one, we've got tan 32 is equal to 19 over a, and I'm going to do it the slow way first, the way that we just learned. So I've got a times a to both sides. So I've got a times tan 32 is equal to 9. Now I've got to divide the tan over to the other side. So a is equal to 9 over tan 32. And that is the correct answer. It just takes a little bit more time. But you might be able to see pretty quickly what we did. Where did these things end up compared to where they started with? So I've got the exact same thing. Tan 32 is equal to 9 over a. So all I've got to do is just swap these two things. The a goes to the other side by itself, and the tan 32 goes to the bottom. This is because we're timesing and then dividing, but we can just do the swap in one go. So straight away the answer is a is equal to 9 over tan 32, and that is correct. This trick is just going to save you time. You can do it both ways, it doesn't actually matter, but again, this makes this trig topic easy. There's not very much maths. The things we've got to look out for are what sides are there, what ratio is it. They're the main takeaways. You can get 80, 90% without having to do any calculations as long as you label things correctly and show us what ratio you need to use. Thanks so much for watching this lesson, guys, and I'll see you later.